Hey Wallace, it's about 9:45 p.m. Monday night. I wanted to go practice the piano, but there are people in both of the practice rooms. I guess I should be thankful that there were two practice rooms. Even, getting access to two pianos at Georgia Tech would be pretty hard. Um, so enjoyed watching your last video. Shout out to Laura because the audio quality on that last one was way higher. No offense to your headphones, but that was pretty clear to listen to, and I didn't have to turn up the volume all the way. So good job, Apple headphone manufacturers, despite the fact that you can't plug those things into any phone that isn't one of theirs. Um, okay, so in your last video, you asked me about natural extensions to things that let you expand kind of the domain of problems you can look into. So I guess the project that kind of fits most naturally into that with what I work on would be the Auto Rally project, which your advisor, one of your research advisor, Evangelos Theodorou, also works on alongside mine. Um, in the problem of reinforcement learning and its partner control theory, there's kind of this dichotomy between model-based and model-free systems, control algorithms, learning algorithms, where the idea is, okay, in model-based algorithms, you start with like these strong priors on how you think your system's going to behave, and as a result, you don't need as many parameters that you're tuning or learning because you already have a kind of an overall idea of how your system works. You just need to learn a few parameters. On the other hand, there's model-free controls, or I suppose I should say model-free reinforcement learning. The two disciplines are really tied together. I can put a link to a really good talk in the description. But anyway, on the model-free side of things, you don't make any assumptions about how the system behaves, and you learn everything from data. So this is way less data efficient, right? Because there's a lot more. Usually, you parameterize however you describe the system, a neural network or whatever, in the model-free side of things. There's a lot more parameters to learn, which means you need a lot more data. But if you have a lot more data, it can describe like more systems, and you don't have to worry about there being an error on your underlying assumptions about how the system behaves. So what's cool about the Auto Rally project and the underlying algorithms that fuel what state of the art is on that right now is it uses something called model predictive controls, which on paper seems model based, but it's different. Rather than having a very precise model of your system, excuse me, rather than having a very precise model of your system and then just learning a few parameters, and if there's an error in your model, then your whole algorithm kind of falls apart. Model predictive control in the context of the Auto Rally system is we have a simple model of how the car works, and we use that to make a short-term decision about the system, about like what action to execute next. And then, we let a time step pass, we collect some more data, and then we re-optimize what the best thing to do is with our simple model of the car. So this is kind of the best of both worlds because it doesn't involve any like really good knowledge about the system the way model-based learning is, and it's not as data inefficient as model-free algorithms are because you do have this model of the system and you're making these really rapid decisions. This, of course, your ability to do this is kind of resting atop having like good controller frequency, which I don't know, maybe satellites have good controller frequency. That's your area of expertise. But I think it's cool that like there's this kind of spectrum of ways to interact with data, and how strong you want your prior knowledge about how much you want to lean on prior knowledge about the world. On the completely different side note, I have no clean segue here, talking about history. Wild thing I learned this last week was like groups I didn't think would align together, women's suffrage movement and anti-union, like corporate folk. But in the context of prohibition, which is what I've been learning about this past week, you have like the Women's Christian Temperance Union, and also like company leaders like the guy who ran Ford, Henry Ford. Both of them being very strong proponents of prohibition, but for very different reasons, right? And the Women's Christian Temperance Union was also pushing for like women's suffrage. Henry Ford was very anti-union because, capitalism. I don't know, politics. It's wild, but like you don't think I like wouldn't associate like people fighting for these groups to kind of team up behind something, and I wouldn't expect that something to be prohibition. But like you said, this history tells like a really interesting narrative, and there are a lot of plot twists. And finally, one last completely unrelated pivot is my question to you. Today is July 15th, right? So Georgia Tech, our fall semester starts August 19th. That's just over a month from now. We have to start winding down these projects. We have to kind of, in your case, I guess you just kind of, I'm not sure what the walk away, how you're going to wind down at Lincoln Labs. I'm not sure how I'm going to wind down here at UW. So I guess my question is, how are you going to find closure with your project? And how do you know in general when a good time to walk away from a project is? Or when it's, when you shouldn't walk away, when you should kind of push further and invest more hours into something. Yeah, cool. So I'm looking forward to your responses to these things. I hope I didn't misspeak about prohibition because that would be very in character for me. See you later.